You want to be a YouTuber? Do you want to produce content for TikTok or Instagram? Or do you just want to make videos for friends and family? Well, I get asked a lot about what I use for equipment to make my YouTube and online social media. Today, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to go through the equipment that I have, why I chose it, and give you some sneaks into what you can probably get away with to make the best videos. My name is Michael Ladin. After visiting over 120 countries on 5 continents, I made the bold decision to sell all of my possessions and become a full-time nomad more than 4 years ago. Currently, I am traveling in my self-built ex-Army overland expedition truck, complete with a KTM motorbike, bicycles, kayak, a one-wheel, and all the essentials needed to explore this incredible planet we call home. Join me as I share my adventures and stories from around the world. All right, let's get right into this. Now, if you found the channel some other way other than, say, nomad life or van life or something like that, you're probably wondering, number one, what do I mostly produce? So I am very outdoors and adventure oriented. I'm either recording things about the truck that I'm sitting in here right now, or on my bicycle or motorcycle, or just out wandering about in the woods. So that's kind of what my camera gear is geared towards. Now I've got a whole table of stuff sitting down here, and we're going to talk about all of this one at a time. Now, I'm going to start out by saying I would be lying to you if I wasn't telling you that my gear has changed over the years, particularly now that I've been on the road for 4.5 years. I got to tell you, I started with a bunch of old school heavy camera gear. And what I have learned very quickly is you can do a whole lot with things that fit in your pocket. So that's mostly what I'm going to talk about today. So let's get right into it, and I'm going to talk about each piece of equipment one at a time, starting with the largest one, which is right here. So this is what I'm going to call old school gear. It is a Lumix GH5, and this is what I primarily would record all of my YouTube content, just about everything back in the day. Now, as you can see, it's heavy. To put it on a gimbal, which, by the way, let's talk about some of the stuff that I have that I don't carry anymore, or that I've gotten rid of. And that would consist of a bunch of big gimbals. I used to carry 2 of these GH5s, all sorts of equipment that just honestly is big and heavy. And that isn't the way we do it now. So included with this camera, all of the gear that I shoot with, I shoot in 4K video. So whether it's this or the GoPros that I'm going to show you, or some of my DJI equipment, it's all shot in 4K. Now, typically for YouTube or even Instagram or TikTok, I tend to render the stuff and output it in 1080p. And that's largely because I don't think most people have the viewing equipment to see it in 4K, for one. And then 2, it just takes a lot longer to upload the content, particularly to YouTube, and I don't find it to be that helpful. Occasionally, I will put a video up if I want it to be a higher quality, sort of I call it a videographer piece, if you will. I'll put that up in 4K, but generally speaking, I render everything lower, down to 1080. And while I'm talking about that, I use Final Cut Pro from Apple. That's the program that I produce all of my video content and do all my editing in. I find I've just used that for so long. I realize there's a bunch of different programs out there. They're all pretty much work the same. So I would just recommend using whatever you're comfortable with. So this GH5 is heavy. It is obviously a mirrorless camera. I have a couple lenses for it, but I'll be honest, I almost exclusively use this one lens, which is on the camera right now. I can't even remember what it is. I'm looking at it right now. I think it's a 8-18, so a fairly widescreen lens. They're decent lenses. I mean, the investment was made. They're Leica lenses. So that is the GH5, and then you can see right here I've got a longer range Olympus, kind of a cheesy lens, to be honest, because you can spend all sorts of money on stuff. This one is a 40 to 150 millimeter, so that's if I'm doing some photography that I want to see at a distance. And I'll be honest, I very rarely do that. It's just not my thing. And then I have another lens here, which is also a Leica, and this is a 12-60. So that is the extent of what I'm going to call my big stuff. Everything else, and then generally my go-to bag for camera equipment, is going to be able to fit in my pocket. GoPros, love them or hate them. I carry two. This happens to be the creator package on this GoPro. These are GoPros 11 and a 12. There's really no difference. I think they just came out with a 13. And so if you're looking at what equipment you need for 2025, these are going to suffice. The creator package on this particular GoPro has a widescreen. They call it the lens mod that can put on, so you can have a couple different lenses, and it has the body around it that has the microphone and a light for indoors or whatever. So that's kind of what I use. What I don't like about GoPros, and probably everybody else out there is going to tell you, battery life is terrible. They're quirky as hell. If you're trying to interact with them with the phone, it's a hit or miss situation. You'll notice this one I've got in a floatable thing. It's not so much that I do a lot with the water, but it's mostly because I can see it, especially when I'm off-roading or doing something, and I put it on the ground. It's easy to find, so that's kind of what I use that for. All right, up next is another small camera that I carry just about everywhere. This one is fairly new to me. This is the Insta 360 X4. So this one just came out fairly recently. This is a 360 camera. Now, if you're not familiar with a 360 camera, it's kind of super cool. You can put it anywhere, and it records basically 360 degrees all around you. Now, that sounds super cool because you can have one camera and it's facing all sorts of directions. In concept, that would be great. This new one, and I had prior to this, I had the X3. This X4 shoots in 8K. Now, that's a little bit misleading because you really need the 8K, because when you edit it down to take a piece, let's say, of the 360 view, you're obviously cutting into the resolution. So I will tell you, even at 8K, it does not have as good resolution as something as simple as what we're recording on right now, which is the DJI Osmo, and I'll show you that in a minute, or an iPhone for that matter. So what it is nice about it is it gets really interesting angles. It can go on what they call the invisible stick, which I've got laying around here somewhere, and I don't know where. It probably rolled on the floor, so I don't know where it went. But it mounts, and you can't see the stick. So it works really well on the motorcycle. It works on a bicycle. If say you're off-roading in a vehicle, you can stick it out the roof. It almost looks like you're being followed by a drone. So you can get some pretty interesting angles with it. It doesn't matter which way you record. So, I'm holding it like this, or like sideways or upside down. It doesn't make any difference in the 360 world. So that's kind of nice. It's got fairly decent stabilization. It's not a gimbal, obviously, so it's not as smooth as some of the other cameras I have. But it is definitely something that I use quite a bit for, just for added effect. I would call it a camera very similar to a drone, where you're going to get some footage, but it's not going to be your primary footage. So next up is, well, most of us have one of these, the iPhone. and a selfie stick from Amazon. Super cheap. You have a phone anyways. This is the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It shoots, to be honest with you, you could survive on YouTube nowadays with just an iPhone. And I'm being very serious when I say that. It shoots such incredible video. You can put it in cinematic mode. It's shooting 4K like everything else. So really, I gotta be honest, 4 years ago, I probably used the iPhone maybe 10% of the time. And I would say now you could get away with 90% of your film could be with an iPhone. And for those Android users out there, the latest, greatest of that, pretty much the same scenario. So the phone and a cheapo selfie stick works great. Now, if you want to improve your phone, I use this. And this is the Hohem Gimbal. And there's lots of different brands out there. This one is inexpensive comparatively compared to some of the other brands like DJI. And this is I use with the phone. So you can get pretty darn good video and stabilization with the gimbal and the phone in combination. The problem with that, and I'm going to show you my next favorite camera that solves this problem, is that you can kind of see it's big, right? And when you put the phone in it, trying to fit in tight spaces or move around, it can be a little bit clunky. All right, next up is a camera that is fairly new to me that I absolutely love and highly recommend. This is the DJI Osmo. Now, it's kind of, if you think about it this way, a combination of a GoPro, but on a gimbal with a screen that you can actually see and work with. Now, I have to show you this. Well, let's do a little trick. So there it is right here. I've actually been recording this entire video with this DJI Osmo camera, and you can see it right there. What's cool about it is you see if I move around here, I've got it in tracking mode. It's following my face around, which comes in really handy when you're recording, well, all sorts of stuff. It's super easy to use. Once you get the hang of the gimbal and how it works, you can get into tight spaces, unlike the iPhone and the big gimbal here that I showed you earlier. That is sort of the last piece of little equipment that I generally use. So to review all this real fast, the DJI Osmo, 2 GoPros, and the 360 camera, and the iPhone. There you go. Those 5 things are tiny little, and you can fit all of them all together in your pocket. If I'm doing something in a studio or recording, just some talking head kind of video, that's maybe where I'll use the Lumix GH5. But other than that, that's all I carry now. So it fits in a little camera bag. You can go just about anywhere with it. And, to be honest, pick one, pick 2. You don't need all of them. The last thing I want to talk about is the sky, the drones.
I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. And did you know you can join for as low as $5 a month for exclusive behind the scenes Drive the Globe content?
I actually carry 3 drones with me, but I'm going to tell you the difference between them. One is the DJI Big Boy Mavic, and this baby right here is the Mavic 3. It is very stable in flight because it's heavy. You do need a drone license to fly it. It really shoots amazing videography, so highly recommend the Mavic. It is extremely expensive, however, so as an alternative, this little baby here, the Mini 4 Pro, also a DJI product. You're not going to notice the difference in the video quality. You're really not. It is a little bit lighter, so it is legal to fly. It's under the license weight of, I forget how many grams that is, but so that makes it a little bit more attainable, certainly less money. I use this new controller that they came out with not too long ago for both of those drones. And I also carry this little baby for when I don't really care. And this is the old Mini 2. It does not have sensing, so you're on your own. You got to be a pilot when you fly this one. It does not have collision avoidance. However, it is something that I put on my bike packing trips, or if I'm in a location where I have some concerns, because I'm not the greatest drone pilot in the world, I'll be honest. So this little thing you can get, I've seen them used as for as low as like a couple $100 on eBay or even on probably Amazon. So it's an alternative if you don't want to spend a ton of money on a drone. So those 3 drones are what I use on board my setup. And they're interchangeable, obviously. I'm not carrying all of them at one time. It depends on what I'm going to be doing. The last thing I want to talk about is probably the most important thing, particularly if you want to be on YouTube or somewhere else. Sound. Sound is more important than video. I'm going to say it one more time. Sound is more important than video. I use a combination of things, really, but this Rode mic setup I have, the Wireless Go, these mics, which I have 2 of them, and then the head unit for it, are my primarily wired up mics. You can see right now I'm wearing this little fluffy thing that looks like a kind of a nice, cute little animal. This is the DJI mic, pretty much comparable to the Rode system. Because I bought the creator package of the Osmo that's recording this video right now, this pairs with that automatically, which is why I'm wearing that. So those are really my 2 mic systems. I have kind of been a fan of Rode. If we go back to this GH5, you can see I have the big Rode mic with the furry on it. But sound is super important. If somebody tunes into your video, and you can have the most amazing photography, but if it's like, you know, and you can't hear a word that the guy's saying, you're out. So I can't overemphasize that. And like I said, I do everything in Final Cut Pro, but you can use, you know, iMovie, you can use, you know, this Adobe. There's just all sorts of varieties of editing program out there to take all this video in. The one thing I did not mention that I want to touch back on in editing, all of these pieces of equipment pretty much integrate with the iPhone, which is super nice. What happens is it just, you can download the videos from each of the devices into an app, whether it's GoPro or the DJI, both the drones and the Osmo, or the iPhone itself. It's already on the iPhone. And then if you have iCloud or something like that, it's automatically backed up. So all your footage you can dump onto the phone, which then backs to the cloud, which is really nice. The one exception to that rule is this little baby, back to the 360 Insta 360 X4 camera. The big negative of this beast is that you have to double edit. It's annoying as hell, but essentially you have to take it into their proprietary software, and then you have to select and, you know, make little clips of what angles you want, which is kind of cool, because if I'm, you know, driving one direction and I have a forward-facing camera, and then in the app, I rotate the screen to a point, let's say to the side, and put a marker there, the video will automatically pan. But then you have to export that into the computer, and then in my case, export it again into, or import it, I should say, into Final Cut. So it's a double-step process for this thing. So I always think about that. One of my big pieces of advice, no matter what equipment you use, number one, use as few pieces of equipment to film as absolutely possible. 2, make sure the time on each piece of equipment is identical. So that way when you export and you put it into an editing program, it will put everything in chronological order. Otherwise, you are going to be a mess. Trust me on this. So those are big pieces of advice. The other thing is, be thoughtful when you film. I've gotten pretty good where I minimize my editing by recording only what I need. You don't record extra. and you kind of do it in a linear thing. So I don't want to say that I necessarily am as organized as, making a complete storyboard before I do it, but it's close. So you have a goal in mind and you kind of film with that goal in mind and you move forward. And like I said, if you use multiple cameras because of whatever you're doing, make sure that the timestamp on them is all identical. So that will make it easier when it comes down to the editing, because I tell you, the easiest part is definitely the recording and shooting the video. The editing is by far the most time consuming. So that's what I got for you guys today. If you have questions, put them down in the comments. I will put the links to all of these pieces of equipment down below, so you can click on it and see exactly what they are, what they cost, and make decisions for yourself on what you actually need to get done the filming that you need to get done. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, and like I said, it's more important to do it than thinking about the equipment. So like I like to say in my other videos, getting ready to get ready is not the way to go. Get out there and do it. And it works the same way here in the videography world. If you got an iPhone and that's all you got, hit the road, record with the iPhone, you'll be fine. As you learn what you need, that's when I would recommend purchasing things. Don't just go out and buy everything that I own here, because you're going to blow a bunch of money and you're not necessarily going to need it. So that's my advice for today. I thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you guys all next week in another YouTube video.
Thanks for joining me today. I really hope that you liked this video. And if you did, give a big thumbs up. Please subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next video.